Welcome, everyone, to our legacy author interview with a powerful advocate for school leaders, author of What It Means to Be a 100% Principal, Robyn Jackson. Robyn, thank you for setting the bar for principals, taking charge of their leadership legacy, and for everything you do to energize leaders everywhere.
It's my pleasure to be here, and it's always an honor to talk about the work of the principalship because I think it's one of the hardest jobs in the building and one of the most misunderstood jobs in the building. And so I'm really excited to be here to talk about that.
Yeah, it's so true. And for all of us that have been on faculties and in leadership roles, the perspective shifts with the roles. I mean, there's no way to know unless you're in the job.
Yeah.
I loved how you started the article. You said, for years we've been trained to accept less and accept marginal gains. Talk about that. Why was that the norm and what's changed?
I don't know why it was the norm. I mean,
Yeah,
that in education, I don't get it, right? Because on one hand we say every child every day, no matter what it takes. But on the other hand, when you actually take that idea and try to put it into practice, you get pushback on every side. So we I think that there is over the years that's felt aspirational, but we don't have enough examples of 100% schools. We don't have enough examples of people who are even going for 100%. We've stopped trying because we've hit some obstacles, because over the years um, we've kind of lost the plot. We say we want every child, we believe that it's important, we just no longer believe it's possible.
and at some point it got okay. I can't remember the specific year, but sitting in a senior staff meeting in one of my districts where the head of special education for the district just announced one spring, these kids just can't learn. And it was okay for her to say that. And everyone just sat there and nodded because no one had an answer.
Yeah.
So I think you're onto something. It does come down to if you don't have models and examples and the resources to marshal it, then you've got a journey in your own to make it happen. It
Well,
becomes your
I
own.
also think there's a fundamental failure or breakdown in terms of the strategies. I still remember um, being a teacher and feeling like it wasn't okay for kids to fail, but everybody around me was just saying, well, you can't save them all. And
Right.
so I wasn't even given strategies that presumed 100%. I was given strategies for this group here, or this group here, or this group there, but I wasn't given an overall strategy to help every kid in my classroom succeed. And so there was a time when the research was really focused on that, right?
Yes.
Like I think about Caroline Tomlinson's work where differentiated instruction so that every child could be successful. I cut my teeth on that kind of
Right.
research.
Yeah.
But over the years, the research began to drift, and we were taught as teachers and as administrators, to write SMART goals that focused on incremental gains. We had legislation that said, okay, you have to gain, no child left behind, yes,
Right.
but every year, instead of focusing on 100%, we were just focusing on, what was the number that was mandated we had to hit that year, and we just hit that
Exactly.
number. And so before long, instead of talking about every child, we're talking about bubble kids. Instead of talking about every child, we're talking about, well, let's just grab this group here or this group there. And it stopped being about every child and started being about the goal became the incremental gain
Right.
versus seeing that gain as truly incremental towards 100%.
I love your perspective. You frame it with three lies that we've all had to buy into over the years. None. Number one, some students just aren't going to make it, which we've just discussed. Number two, even if it were possible, it's not worth it. We only have so much time in a day and so many uh, access to resources. And then number three, even if it was possible and it was worth it, I don't have the power to make it happen. And that's what I love about your article, is you just look us in the eye and say, you do have the power, you just don't acknowledge it. Talk
And you
about
weren't
that.
trained. You weren't trained to do it. Our administrator training does not train us to think in 100%. It trains us to manage what is already existing
Yeah.
and to perhaps improve what already exists. But we're not trained to take what exists and turn it into 100%. And I think
Right.
that's the breakdown, because I see too many principals who are doing exactly what they were trained to do. And they are considered successful by their district. They are
Right.
considered model principals. And so we are trained and rewarded to fail some kids. I mean, that's the bottom line. I don't know how else to put it. And there are some people who have really bought into that and that's all they want, but then there's
Right.
another segment of people who know deep down inside that that's not right, but they've never been given another alternative. And I
Right.
think that it's because we are looking to leadership to do what leadership was never designed to do, because I believe leadership is an artifact of the institution designed to maintain the institution. It's
Yes.
designed to maintain what already exists. It's not designed to transform it. So then we try to come up with all these other adjectives. Okay, well, I'm not just a leader, I'm a transformational leader, right? The
Right.
fact that we have to find another adjective to put in front of leadership to
Yeah.
make it fit us tells us that leadership isn't working. It's an ill fitting paradigm for what we're trying to do. And so I want to just tell people forget leadership. It's
Right.
not working. Let's do something else. And I call it buildership. And it's
Right.
about building a school where 100% is possible. And it means doing things differently. And it's not doing things radically differently, like we're creating a whole new way to do work, because the reality is our schools exist and our districts exist. And we still work for a district, right?
Yes.
But it's about taking the work that you're being required to do and doing that work differently. So you already have to observe teachers. But when you observe teachers, are you giving them feedback that conforms to the rubric and that ticks the boxes? Or are you giving them feedback that helps them grow into 100% teachers? You already have to do a master schedule, but are you designing a master schedule that just, makes sure that all the butts are in the seats? As I remember when I first became an administrator, someone
Yes.
gave me advice, as long as you follow the 5 B's, you'll be good. Are the butts in the seats? Is the budget on time? Are the balls on the court? Are the buses running? And are the books in the classroom? If you do those 5 things, you'll be fine. So, what are you doing the master schedule to check the butts in the seats box?
Right.
Or are you designing a master schedule that really aligns with the vision you have for 100% of your students? And so it's not about doing different work. It's about rethinking the work that we're already doing and doing it in a way that gets us to 100%. And so there's small shifts that you have to make, but there's significant shifts that make the work meaningful again, that make the work produce results again,
Yes.
and that still allow us to operate in a district that may not even get what it is you're trying to do.
And if you're getting the results, no one's going to argue with you. I
No,
mean, that is,
well, I used to think that. I do think that sometimes there are times when you start getting these results and they're so amazing that people get threatened by what you do.
that's
Um,
fair. Yeah.
let's just recognize the political landscape. And the people who are threatened the most are the ones who don't have another alternative, right?
Right.
So they're holding on to that leadership paradigm because they are unable and unwilling to step into something bigger. That's all they've got, right? So you
Right.
recognize that, but there are ways around that. I think that a lot of times we ignore the reality of the job. And if people are really going to believe that 100% is possible, we have to contextualize it in what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Because if not,
Right.
it's another, then it sounds like, oh, that's great, that's pie in the sky, but it won't work for me. And it will work for you given your reality, given the fact that there are going to be some people who may try to block you from doing this because they don't get it or they're threatened by it, given that you are working in a power structure that may not support you at first until you start showing these amazing results and all of a sudden everybody thinks you're wonderful, given
Right.
the fact that you are going to face resistance from teachers because they don't believe in their ability to create 100%, given the
Yeah.
fact that you're going to create all kinds of, I mean, not create, but encounter all kinds of other roadblocks, even with all of that, you can still achieve 100%. And
Yeah.
I'm working with schools right now who are doing it and who
Right.
are doing it in the face of those realities. So that's good news for somebody out there who's sitting there thinking, I would love to do it, but that, like, we've encountered your butts. There are people
Right.
right now who've encountered your butts. We have realistic ways of dealing with your butts and still helping you where you are right now, given the kids and the staff you have,
Yeah.
achieve 100% success.
It's amazing. And you make a statement about midway that you just said. Once you reject the belief that power comes from the outside, everything changes.
Yeah.
And that's what you're describing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're going to face district roadblocks because
Yep.
districts are not built for 100% success. They're just not. Not right now. I mean, I want to change that, right? So we're doing some work in some districts now where we are showing how districts can be built for 100% success, and their stories are just kind of like sometimes I feel funny about even telling the stories because it sounds like I'm making it up. I mean, it's just like we have one principal. She said, "My scores jumped so much in 1 year that I'm scared I'm going to get investigated because of just some
Wow.
simple shifts that you're making." Right. So the people are experiencing these incredible results when they take back the power. And it doesn't mean that you have to do a dramatic overhaul, get rid of your entire staff and hire new staff and get a grant of $1 million so you can build a STEM lab or do all the things that people think they need to do to make change. People are doing it right now with the people and the resources they already have. And that's
Right.
the good news, right?
Yes.
It's an internal shift when you really adopt 100% mindset, things change from that moment.
Yeah.
Like before anything else changes. So it gives you a lot of power as a principal or even as an assistant principal. It gives you a lot of power
Mhm.
right there, even without all the other things having to happen. And I think that once people realize that they do have the power right now, and that making that shift in terms of mindset is the most important step, then it 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 helps them to realize that the dream they had when they came into this work
Right.
is possible. And nobody is telling you that. Everybody's telling you to shave down your dream, settle, good enough is good enough. You
Right.
know better. But
Yep.
nobody out there is telling you that.
Does it necessarily mean if I'm in the audience listening, do I have to be a maverick? Do I have to be somebody that just swims upstream and fights the power that be? Or can I be part of the club and still be my own person?
But that's a really good question because I think there's this image that in order to have real transformation, you have to be Joe Clark or you have to be Henry
Right.
Escalante or
Right.
those movies. Those movies are movies for a reason, right? Because
Right.
they sensationalize it. When you meet the real people even behind the movies, they will tell you
Yeah.
that it wasn't like that, right?
Right.
So I look at the builders that I work with
Mhm.
and they are they're all different kinds of people. And what I love about becoming a builder is that makes it different than becoming a leader is that
Mhm.
when you are a leader, you have to fit into the leadership mode, right?
Right.
Leadership demands that you are some sort of charismatic person or you've got to do like people feel like they have to be something to fit leadership. Buildership says you build with what you have. You
Yeah.
bring who you are to the table. So if you look at builders, they're that level 5 leadership. Do you remember that book we all had to read back in the day with about goodness. Everybody had to read it. It was put the right people on the right bus, the right
Oh
seat.
yeah.
What was the
Yeah.
name of the book?
Jim
Jim
Collins.
Collins, right? Built good to
Good
great,
to
good to
great.
great.
Good
Yeah.
to great. There
So
you go.
y'all have to read that. You
Yeah.
know what people forget about that book? Because I still think it's a good book. I still think a lot of his theories apply.
Yeah.
When he talks about a good to great company, he
Hmm.
says that level 5 leader is not charismatic. That
Right.
level 5 leader is not all the things we think about for being a leader. And I
Yeah.
think builders are the same way.
Yeah.
People are quietly doing this, people who are first year and second year principals, people who have been principals for a long time but have felt uncomfortable in the role, the way that trying to make themselves into what other people think a leader should be,
Mhm.
and finally figuring out I can just be myself. So your question is double edged, right? Because doing this is revolutionary, doing this is maverick
Right.
work, but
Right.
you don't have to be that. The decision is what makes that happen. You
Gotcha.
come with who you are, and that's the thing I love the most because it won't work and it won't scale if you aren't able to show up as you.
Yeah.
So a lot of the principals that I work with, they are so excited because the first time they can show up as themselves.
Right.
And They can take the things that make them unique and turn those things into strengths that serve their school. And soon this work gets bigger than you, right? Because being a builder,
Right.
there's this thing that I always say, I didn't make this up, I stole it, like any good educator, right? But there is that bosses say go,
Yeah.
leaders say let's go, builders say come. And when you are a builder, it doesn't
Ah,
fall on your shoulders. You're
yeah.
inviting people into something bigger and better.
Yeah.
And so when you come to the work like a builder, you don't
Mhm.
have to carry it through the
Right.
power of your personality or your conviction or anything.
Right.
You just have to invite people. You start building. That's the other thing I like about this. You don't have to wait for anybody to get started. You
Yeah.
start building. And
Yeah.
as you begin to build and invite other people to join you in building, they bring their ideas, they bring their skill set. And so it becomes something bigger than just you. And the
Yeah.
beautiful part about this is people don't tear down what they help build. So the more people are building with you, the more they protect it. So you're not the only one standing between,
Right.
the school success and the breach. Other
Right.
people are protecting it. Other people are building it, which means that it will last long after you're gone because it's not dependent on your personality. It's not dependent upon your willpower. It's
Yeah.
something we're building together. And that's what makes it last. That's what makes it sustainable. And that's what makes the results happen so quickly.
Amazing stuff. If I come in, or if I and my staff come in to work with you, is the prerequisite that I have to know who I am? If I've been playing the game so long, is there time for me to do a gut check on who the authentic leader in me is, or do I really need to know in order to hit the ground running?
No, I mean, how can you, right? Because you've been steeped in a leadership paradigm.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell what's you and what's your training, right? And the hardest
Right.
part of my job is helping people unlearn a lot of the garbage, So I don't when I'm working with people, all I need is a decision, right? That
Gotcha.
I want something else. And then the first thing that we do is, and this is the most powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
Like can I tell you, like the first thing that we do is we help you figure out what your vision is. And the vision, unlike other people who teach vision, it's not a vision statement. You don't need a committee.
Yeah.
As the principal, the vision belongs to you. And let me tell you why. If you don't hit your vision, are they going to fire the vision committee or are they going to fire you?
Right.
They're going to fire you, right? So the
Yeah.
vision belongs to you. And I would say you can be stubborn on the vision, but flexible around the details. And that's where everybody else comes in, right?
Gotcha.
But you're stubborn on that vision. So the first thing we do is we help you figure out what's your vision? What is the promise that you want
Yeah.
to make for your students? And recently I was working with a principal and she came in and she gave me a vision. And I was like, that's not your vision. And she's like, yes, it is. It's my vision. It's what I want for the kids. And we started probing and working together and probing.
Mm-hmm.
And there were other people there, right? I was so glad because, like, you wouldn't believe it if I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
And she's talking and I'm pushing and she's giving me all the leadership, stuff that she's been fed over the years and
Right.
insisting, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happened. It's about 20 minutes of us going back and forth.
Yeah.
I'm asking her questions. I'm pushing. We're trying to get it. And I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. I said, I'll know when it's there. And not because I'm some sort of sage or like prophet, but I just
Right.
will know.
Yeah.
And there got to be a moment where we're going back and forth. And finally, she says what she really wants. And I remember there was this moment she says it, and I go, there it is. Because her whole demeanor changed. Now we're
Right.
getting to the truth. And everybody there saw it. And we
Wow.
all got goosebumps. And then she starts to cry. She was like, I'm tearing up.
Wow.
That's it. That's your vision. Now, once she tapped into that,
Mm-hmm.
everything for her school changed in that moment. She hadn't done a single thing. She hadn't hired another person. She hadn't done it. Everything changed in that moment. How she shows up is different. What she considers to be a priority is
Yeah.
different. How she treats her staff is
Yeah.
everything is different in that moment. And so if I can help you get to that point,
Right.
everything else changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes. And so you don't have to know, right? That's because a lot of times you can't. You need you need somebody else. I mean, even I still
Right.
hire mentors for me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
sometimes you're just too close to stuff, you know? So,
Exactly.
you need a mentor that's going to help you bring it out. And
Yeah.
so the mentorship that we do, that's our first step. And when people see that, the change is palpable,
Yeah.
not just in them, but in their schools the next day. And it's hard to quantify or describe, you didn't write
Yeah.
the 25-page,
Right.
manifesto or anything like that. But
Right.
when you, that's why it's a vision, right? Because if your vision doesn't help you see your school differently, what it's
Mhm.
not serving you.
Right. It's so powerful just hearing you talk
Oh
about it.
my gosh, it is my favorite thing.
I can tell it comes right through. Right now, with everything happening society-wise, there's so many forces in play. But what comes to mind presently is there's a lot of talk about dismantling and disruption and how things are going to change. When you're doing this work, is it your mindset that yes, things are going to change however we respond to this moment in time? And as long as we have our vision and we're authentically leading, we will get through this to whatever education looks like on the other side? Or, and this is not an easy question, I know, or are you thinking, no, the institution is timeless, it's not going away. We're still going to be sitting in the same institution 10 years from now, looking back saying, what was that? You know,
I don't know. I think this time feels different,
it does.
but I think that and I think it feels different because um, there is an intentional dismantling of institutions.
Exactly.
So, I think this time feels different, but the thing that, but I don't want to be trite and say, but we'll get through it
Right.
because it's not that simple. I
Hmm.
don't think we're going to get through it unless we build a school that is anchored in something.
Yeah.
And I said this when the pandemic happened that the schools that made it through the, and we had a lot of schools that we worked with who, instead of experiencing learning lost in the pandemic, showed
Hmm.
double-digit learning gains during the pandemic.
Wow.
And the difference between those schools and other schools is they
Hmm.
anchored in the vision. So I always talk about this one principal, Tasha Lynn. She was, she had just come up with her vision. Her school was already struggling, and then a pandemic hit. And you remember how we thought we were going to flatten the curve in 2 weeks, right? So we are going to go in 2
Yes.
weeks, and then all of a sudden we realized, no, we're going to be home for a while, and remote learning was happening. Her staff is freaking out,
Yeah.
and she brought her staff together, and she said, all these things are happening. She named them, and then she said, do any of those things change our vision?
Yeah.
And her staff was quiet for a minute, and they said no. She's okay. Well, then we can get through it. And I
Yeah.
think that if you have a clear 100% vision and you have so the way that we teach vision is different. The vision is very simple. So to give you an example, it's 100% of students will be reading at or above grade level by grade two. That's it. That's the vision. Or
Right.
100% of students will be proficient or above in the four core subjects every year. That's
Yeah.
it. So it's 100%. It's tangible, it's measurable, all those things.
Yeah.
So the vision says, here's what we are building. The mission says, here's why it's important. And the core values say, here's the role, here's what has to be non negotiable among us in order to achieve it. So when you do it right, it's one sentence: vision because mission, therefore core values. So when you do that, when you do the work, and it is work, it takes
Oh
time
yeah.
because everybody has to embrace it, everybody has to own it. But
Yeah.
when you get that in place, that's your anchor.
Yeah.
And as things become more chaotic, and they will,
Yeah.
again, I'm not a prophet, but I believe they will.
I agree.
There are a lot of schools who haven't done that work because they've been chasing test scores and chasing 5% gains and doing all this other stuff that
Yep.
they haven't done that work. So they have no anchor. And those schools and those individuals are really going to suffer. The
Right.
schools that have the anchor will be able to weather the storm. So I don't know, a year or two ago, I was sitting in church, and
Hmm.
the pastor is really good at metaphors. He tells this
Yeah.
story about his grandmother, and his grandmother lived on a farm. And every morning they would get up, they'd light the wood stove, they, measure the flour, make the biscuits, knead the biscuits, make a breakfast from scratch, uh, make the beds, sweep the house. And then at the end of breakfast, the father would say, "All right, y'all, let's get to work." And one day she said, "Daddy, we've been up for 2 hours, and all we've been doing since we've gotten up is work. And so, how are you telling us let's get to work?" And he goes, "No, no, no. Those were the chores. The work is in the field." And ever since then, the inside of Buildership University, we have
Yeah.
this language
Yeah.
about chores versus work.
Huh.
There are things that we do as administrators that are chores,
Right.
and we treat it as if it's the work. The real work is, what are we doing to help 100% of our kids be successful?
Right.
And so the chores, a lot of people are so focused on the chores, and that's why they're burned out. And that's
Hmm.
why the work doesn't feel like it means anything, because they spend all their time on the chores
Right.
and no time doing the work. And the
Yeah.
work is that vision, that mission, the core values, and the work you're doing to actualize that in your school. Everything else is chores. And so the if we're going to survive this time and come out with something better, right?
Yes.
We're going to be able to do that. We got to stop doing the chores,
Right.
which is what leadership teaches us is the only thing, right? We got to start doing the real work. And
Yeah.
my frustration is that we're not talking enough about the work.
Right. Yeah, we get pulled into these other conversations, and especially as a public dialogue, you're so spot on. If we can show an alternative at the other end of this that shows 100%, then that's an easy PR campaign. That's proof in the, you don't have to go testify in front of a committee and bring your data. You can show the results and say, proof's in the pudding. We're doing it.
And let me tell you the results. The results are just ridiculous. I mean, that's the thing, that because and here's why I think they're so crazy.
Yeah.
When you go for 5%,
Hmm.
you use 5% tactics.
Right.
And so
Right.
if you get 5%, you're like, "Whoo, whoopee, we worked so hard, we got 5%." And a lot of times you don't even get the 5%, right?
Right.
Because you're
Right.
using tactics that were only designed to get you 5%. When you go for
Hmm.
100%, use 100% tactics.
Right.
And you may not
Right.
get there on the first pass, but
Yeah.
because you're using 100% tactics, you see double digit gains in a semester, double digit gains in a year. I mean,
Yeah.
we have people who have quintupled their reading scores in one year. We've had people double their math gains in a year. We've had, I mean, just crazy because they are focused on the work.
Right.
Anything less than 100% is a chore. And so that gives them a lot of focus. It helps
Yeah.
them stop being overwhelmed by a lot of stuff that they know is not going to matter. When you hold your what you're doing up to that 100% test, it helps you to choose the strategies that are going to get you so you're going to work hard anyway, right? But
Right.
you're
Yeah.
working hard at something that is going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And when you stop looking at the numbers and start thinking about all those kids who can now read because you
Hmm.
focused on the work, all those kids who now have a shot at changing their lives and changing their family stories because
Hmm.
you did the work, that's when you realize that that a lot of the stuff we're doing, we just
Yes.
we just need to stop. And
Right.
that alone will transform education.
The power of your voice is that you're one of us, you speak from experience, and you cut through all of that. And it resonates with all of us when we hear you speak. I just pop on LinkedIn and watch one of your clips, and I'm like, bam, there she is again, just cutting through all of it. There she is. There's the truth. Um, Thank you so much for being that voice, because so many of us feel under siege and under-resourced and exhausted. And to have someone that kind of gives us this clarion call of keep your focus, remember what's important, remember why you got into this, is going to make the difference. Because as you said, it's going to get worse. This isn't over yet.
No.
What's next for you? Do you have anything coming out book-wise, or anything you're working towards as a next big announcement?
Well, so I'm always working on a book, so
Yes.
there I'm writing. But The big thing we're doing right now is, for years we've had Buildership University, and it's a mentorship, and it's a year-long commitment for
Yeah.
people who are ready to transform schools.
Right.
But there's some people who aren't ready to do that transformational work yet because they're
Yeah.
still kind of suffering under the chores versus work. And so we
Yeah.
started something this year called the 100% Collective. And
Ooh.
it's a place where people who want to start developing this 100% mindset
Hmm.
can go and start taking some of the chores that they're doing and turn it into work. So the
Right.
idea around the collective is that we want to take the work you're already doing.
Hmm.
We want to show you how to do it like a builder. We want to show
Yeah.
you how to do it in a way that gets that 100% results from it. So everything from, you got to hire teachers, but the way we hire teachers is so messed up. And so giving people a plug and play stretch. So we
Yeah.
every month we start by doing a mindset shift. Okay, so let's take this thing you're doing and let's look at it differently. And then the next thing we do is we do a training where we actually show you how to do it. So it's not just mindset work, but it's okay, here's how you do it, and it's based in reality. You got to
Yeah.
do this, you got to do a job announcement, you got to do this, you got to do that. So
Right.
here's how to do it in a way that helps align you with your vision and move things forward and get to the 100%. Then
Yeah.
the next thing we do is then we release a playbook that takes you step by step through the process with all the tools. These are the
Wow.
emails you need to send. This is the job announcement template you're going to use. I mean, everything. And then at the end of the month, we pick one person and we actually do it with them so that other people can see what it looks like. So it's
Yeah.
very unique to their school. So
Yeah.
that has been it's been a lot of fun, and people are getting immediate relief from just kind of the burden of all the chores because we're turning those chores into the real work. So I'm kind of excited about that
Yes.
right now because of it's really practical. And then there are some people in the collective who say, you know what, I can see the difference it's making here. Let's go ahead and just transform this school. And then, of course, the mentorship is available for that. But the collective is just
Right.
a great place to just get some immediate relief. And we've done things on PLCs, hiring your next master teacher. We're doing one on having feedback conversations with teachers. That's the
Yeah.
next one that's coming up this month. Um,
Yeah.
there's just things that you already have to do anyway.
Right.
We did a master scheduling one that was so good, to just help people think through their master schedule differently. It's all about just taking the chores you're doing and turning it into meaningful work that matters.
It's incredible stuff. And meeting everyone where they are and bringing them along, sharing all of your expertise and tools and strategies. Is there any method to when to join? This is so timely right at the beginning of the school year, but if
Join
somebody
right
wakes
now.
up,
Yep.
okay,
Hey,
okay,
just wake up and join the collective. And it's a collective, not a hostage situation. So there's like there's you can join for a month, and if you and you get access to all the archives and everything.
yeah,
So you can
yeah,
join for a month, see what's there. If it works for you, great, stick around because there's something new happening every single month.
right.
Or you can, say, hey, not for me. I'm not ready to be a builder yet. And after a month, you can move on with your life.
Well, Robin, thank you so much. I started this thanking you. I'm thanking you as we wrap up. Excited to get this interview out to everyone in the community, and even more excited to see what's next as you continue to evolve this work. It's so important.
Thank you. And you know what? Can I thank you? Because this, what you're doing is visionary. I mean, you could retire and just kind of, sail off into the sunset, right?
Right.
But you are still pushing and advocating
Yeah.
for changing education. And so I just want to let you know how much I appreciate what you're doing
Thank
because
you.
I think it matters. I just think that we need voices like yours, and you're doing your best to amplify other voices as well. And we're going to need it.